You're here because you're a career changer who's ready to level up in a crowded market. You're sick of faking it till you make it, comparing yourself to others, and worrying that you're coming up short. You're especially sick of hearing no. You're especially sick of hearing no, being ignored, and tweaking your resume. If you want to be done praying to the job gods for interviews and offers, the next 30 minutes are your golden opportunity to stop the angsty self doubt and become the most in demand candidate in your industry. And I know, you're thinking she's going to tell me how freaking important my self talk is. But you're already working on that. And you're still not where you want to be. You're exhausted, right? Let me guess. Your whole level up strategy has been one never ending, soul sucking to do list of things that only made a dent of improvement. And you're really starting to think that something is actually wrong with you. But how would I know such a thing? It's because I've been you. And now I'm ready to spill the beans and share the strategies that have launched me into multiple career changes. What I'm going to share with you today is a process no other career coach is confident enough to tell you. It's the one thing that's the domino that finally creates momentum. So here's a disclaimer. What I'm going to share with you is simple. It might even be a little boring, but because I gotta tell you, being consistently confident about the path you're on eliminates a lot of the drama that we overthinkers and determined high achievers sometimes get addicted to. So really, this is for you if you want to get really freaking good at the basics that actually matter. And it's whether you're on the job or still in the job search. Maybe you're settling into something new. What we'll get into today is the human stuff that lies underneath all the shiny tactical recommendations you've been flooded with, which means it's going to make everything you're doing work that much better. I'll show you how you can hit your stride by doing less so you can stop desperately running on the hamster wheel just because it seems proactive. It does require something from you in order to work. So I need you to wholeheartedly agree to these questions. Are you ready to actually have what you've been chasing? And are you willing to do the right things instead of all the things in order to get it? If you said yes, let's go deeper with a simple assessment. So grab a piece of paper and write down either yes or no for these 10 questions. We're going to tally up your score at the end, so I'm serious about getting the paper. Go grab something to take notes with. I can wait. You back? All right, question 1. Are you worn down trying to prove yourself, practice your skills, keep up with the industry, build your network, improve your resume? You know, all the things that Free Mentor told you have to do, only to feel overwhelmed, exhausted, and maybe even angry or resentful some days. Yes or no? Do you wish you knew years ago that your new direction existed because it's a blend of your talents and passion? It can help people and it pays pretty darn well. Yes or no? Does it seem like a lot of other people are making the same move, so you're in an endless ocean of competition? Yes or no? Do you have the skills to do the work, but no one seems to get it or recognize your potential? Regardless of your talent or enthusiasm, you're being ignored. Yes or no? Are you considering yet another credential just to prove yourself? And does that sound like a dreadfully expensive and long time to be in limbo? Yes or no? Are you tired of feeling like a sleazy fraud when you're reaching out to people on LinkedIn just to ask for a job referral? Yes or no? As you try to explain your story, Are you beginning to realize that maybe you aren't as clear as you thought you were about what you're trying to achieve? I mean, after all, you're willing to do anything or you'll take whatever just to get started. Yes or no? Do you worry that you'll never be able to compete with the players that have 3 to 5 years plus experience already on their resumes? Now hold that thought, because I'm going to show you how to jujitsu the cronies and make their work history work to your advantage. Yes or no? Deep down, are you getting scared that you made a mistake by trying to create a fulfilling career? And does giving it up and having no idea what to replace it with feel like a lifelong pit of despair? I mean, especially since you take pride in your work and some of your identity and self-worth are on the line. Yes or no? Are you truly ready to transition from anxious to confident, but feel like no one's giving you the support you actually need? Yes or no? All right, let's review your answers. Ready for the results? If you got more than 2 yeses on your paper, I've got good news, and I've got better news. The good news is that none of the problems I just shared with you are the real issue, and therefore you don't need to fix each one individually. But the better news is that I'm going to help you go deeper to where all these seemingly separate problems originate so we can fix the root cause. You ready? Awesome. So I'm Tony Rosati, and my own journey through 3 career changes led me to combine disciplines that typically never speak to each other. I've done digital arts, research, decision sciences, and deep mentoring. I know, it's a strange combo. I have been able to help thousands transition into new career identities and heal their imposter syndrome, precisely because I come from such an unusual series of angles. So what I'm about to share with you is what I've distilled over my 30 years of first selling and delivering creative work to clients, and then diving deep into data that measures the nuances of how humans make decisions. Everything is supported by real-life experiences. I tested these principles on my own career before hundreds of clients. I hope you're ready to finally have relief, because I remember how it feels to be an outsider behind what seems to be like a military blockade. You can be seen for the fireball. You can be seen for the fireball you actually are. So let's get started. Principle number 1, clean house. So imagine this. You're burning the Glade candles, but you know you didn't vacuum or dust or take out the trash. And it doesn't matter that the visitor didn't notice. You notice, and something stinks. They may not smell it, but they can tell you're uncomfortable. It's exactly the same when you spend your mental energy fighting your inner critic with pep talks and willpower and empty internal promises. And instead of spending that mental energy doing the work, building genuine relationships with your coworkers and making an impact on the world. So what's the one thing that can shift you from this white knuckle fake smile to the cool cat confidence? The difference is self-trust. If you feel uneasy about sharing who you are, if you're afraid of being judged, or if you worry you'll sound arrogant, if you're happy with your accomplishments, how dare you sound arrogant? You need to have something to clean. You have something you need to clean up in your inner house so that you can actually trust yourself. Most people think they've healed from past experiences, pains, traumas, but they've really just put it in a time capsule and tried to forget which heart valve they buried it in. The stories we live by are infinitely powerful. So I'll give you an example. One of our clients, Greg, came to us when his job search wasn't going so well. See, he had left a good job to level up as a product manager at a big media company. But in just a few months at this new thing, it was clear he was in over his head. And he was fired despite all of his skills, his overtime, and his incredible effort. So Greg was carrying this very heavy story about who he was and what he was ever going to be capable of doing going forward. He saw no way around the data and the hard facts of his previous performance. And he truly believed this stain on his permanent record was proof that he had reached his potential and failed. So I told him my story of being fired, how it was devastating and terrifying, how I wanted to move to another state and change my name, and how I tried to pretend that shame didn't actually bother me, and oh yeah, I'll be over it in no time. So right there in our first conversation, Greg's inescapable problem started to morph and shift. Not a bad way to spend a free hour, right? Long story short, he was worried about putting in the time, the money, the energy, and the hope into a program that might disappoint him like other options he'd already tried. Luckily, my coaches and I don't use the same old formula. Much of the help out there is all too often, it allows this emotional pain to hide, but we welcome it head on so you can heal. Because if it stays hidden, it's just gonna spook us later and trick us into playing small forever. In just a couple weeks, Greg was able to give himself permission to go all the way into his real truth. The truth that all the promotions or accolades in the world wouldn't have dislodged. We released the untrue things he believed about himself based on past hurts. These beliefs that kept him feeling anxious and vulnerable, the thoughts of they that would normally freeze him immediately. And what did that self-permission do for Greg? Well, the laundry list of things he couldn't do because what would they think evaporated. He was able to reclaim hope and make the career moves that mattered to him. On interviews, Greg was able to own his story. No shame and no apologies. Greg was able to Greg was hired as a senior product manager in just a few weeks. But the best part, his boss is a mentor, not a distant dictator like many of Greg's previous bosses. And he enjoys and trusts his team. And lastly, cleaning up his head trash enabled him to authentically connect and drop the anxiety that came with overthinking each decision he made. The truth is, if we don't build our careers from a place of deep acceptance, we'll keep accepting jobs that trigger our deepest fears. This is why you self-sabotage. You're letting fears and anxieties make decisions for you. I lived in this messy middle too. And the world seemed to only offer these shallow, trite, or hand-wavy guidance for people in the messy middle like me. F that. I made this program deep, atypical, and invigorating. If I could put my method in a time machine to my younger self, I would have easily saved at least $100,000 in therapy sessions and coping activities that just kept me swirling and making new messes. And because I wouldn't have been bleeding energy by avoiding or escaping or trying to crush or banish my inner critic with piecemeal solutions, I would have probably been earning my six-figure salary for like a decade longer. Slowly figuring out what I have in my program on my own might have been one of the most expensive mistakes I've ever made. Here's the gist. Imagine a toddler learning to walk, but she's got a poopy diaper. Yeah, gross. And when I lost my balance and fell down, I got some weird squishy interpretations about falling. Those interpretations stay with each of us way longer than they should. And just like that toddler, crying wasn't the best way to tell mom. I didn't know how to point to my booty and say, hey, help me out with this. So that brings me to my next point. Principle number 2, positioning is clarity. If you're not getting to the final round of interviews, I can all but guarantee you have a clarity problem. A lot of folks come to us struggling because they're putting themselves out there. They're delivering great work, networking like a champ, proving they're a team player, applying to jobs, asking for referrals, but they're still stuck in limbo. If you want to attain a job you truly love doing, then you have to go a layer deeper than typical personal branding. You have to position yourself. This is the shift we helped Melanie Jaros make. Melody came to us fairly early after graduating a boot camp for user experience and product design. So a boot camp is an accelerated learning program, and this was for UX skills to make all those pretty apps that you use. You have to know this about Melody. She is a classic type A and smart as hell. As an elementary school teacher, she created programs and even taught other teachers how to implement them and measure results. She's creative, analytical, and she was hungry. The fact that she couldn't get a bite related to this expertise was maddening. So, right in our epiphany session, it became obvious that Melody was not communicating who she was or showing what she was really capable of. She just couldn't wrap her head around how projects within her old job made sense for the new direction she wanted to go in. When I told her the game plan, and a light bulb went off. Literally from the epiphany session, her path was clearer. Melanie chose to work with us, and within the first 4 weeks, she was able to tell the world exactly who she was and what she wanted. She translated several old projects so people in her industry could tell she was a rock star. Melanie also created a whole new portfolio, resume, LinkedIn profile. But the part that blew her mind was how effortless it was. Now that she had the clarity, her career change was no longer this weird, crazy leap. And with a solid way to position herself and tell her story, Melanie could prove she wasn't starting over. Before the end of the program, Melanie had an exciting job offer that was an awesome match for her skills, personality, and her goals. And her new salary was double what her old salary was. And because of the growth she made in the program, that salary was also 20% more than she imagined as the best case scenario. So being in the identity and best case scenario. So being in the impact and identity program literally paid for itself threefold before she was even through the full 4. That's a lot of numbers. Her new salary was double what her old salary was. And because of the growth she made in the program, that salary is 20% more than what she imagined as a best case scenario before we met. The impact and identity program literally paid for itself threefold before she was even through the full 8 weeks. And she gets that extra money every year. So what's our secret? People don't hire people they don't understand. So the right positioning makes all the difference. This powerful part of the program isn't something you can DIY. So trust me, I've tried to teach it all cookie cutter style, but it is inevitably those subconscious blocks that show up and will often prevent people from doing it right. So if you try to do branding or positioning on your own and it didn't work for you, don't beat yourself up. Remember the cleaning house part I mentioned before? Yeah, that's why. The level of clarity required to tell stories succinctly, truthfully, and powerfully is just not something anyone can do on their own. Put it this way. I didn't even announce the Impact and Identity program to the world without one of my coaches walking me through my own process. The collaboration and guidance helped me be crystal clear. And it's exactly the same for your career. Why? Positioning is like open heart surgery. You can be the best surgeon in the world, but you need someone else to operate on your heart. Your takeaway here is personal branding lacks the clarity and depth, and it prevents you. Your takeaway here is this. Personal branding lacks the clarity and depth which prevents you from effectively grabbing attention and making a deeper connection. Either you've made yourself so general that you underwhelmingly fade into the background, or you catch their eye, but your willingness to do anything overwhelms and confuses the people you're trying to build trust with and connection with. So I know personal branding is all the rage, but it's basically the wrapping paper on a birthday gift. It's pretty, but if people don't think it's for them, they won't open it. Positioning is the antidote. It helps you package and share exactly what you do, who you do it for, and why they should trust you to get the job done. Then, and only then, will the pieces you need to focus on get revealed. Your to-do list gets short and clear and sharp. When you communicate with clarity of your positioning, you get those interviews and those offers almost immediately. And if you're like some of my clients, you get your choice of job offers. And you'll have plenty of power to do some negotiating up, which we'll help you with. So you're probably thinking, but I do tell people what I want and it still isn't working. It's okay. My clients once thought that too. But after going through our positioning process, my clients are no longer stumbling to explain themselves, which means they're comfortable and excited when they're networking and interviewing. So they're oozing with natural confidence while actually connecting with the person they're talking to. My clients have people light up with interest and intrigue and follow-up questions after, just a few seconds of explaining who they are and what they do. No more confused reactions like, oh, that seems nice. Good luck with that. Friends and acquaintances remember my clients' goals and want to introduce them to a match without needing to be asked for help. Seriously, imagine getting connected to a hiring manager without begging for a referral. How would your confidence change when you have the clarity to create interest like this? Let me tell you just a few specific results we've seen. So my client Ruping found the clarity to position herself as the designer for daily interactions. And she transferred away from B2B and landed a dream team. Let me tell you just a few specific results we've seen. My client Ruping found the clarity to position herself as the designer for daily interactions and transferred away from B2B and landed with a dream team leveraging her knowledge about creating loyalty. Another client, Catherine, got a raise and stability by moving from hourly to salary, and she doubled her income in a year. And Marco made a massive shift from being a developer at startups to focusing on building apps for nonprofits worldwide. Because they cleaned house and braved showing up as what they really wanted, they were able to move out of the I'll take anything purgatory. Instead, they focused. By doing less, they had the energy and the confidence to create a winning strategy and say yes to dream opportunities without waiting years hoping for a lucky break. Now, even though the two things I've just shared can transform lives and all on their own, now, even though these first two principles that I've just shared Now, even though these first two principles can transform lives all on their own, you won't want to miss my method for amplifying your message. This next piece is so powerful at boosting your credibility and trustworthiness that strangers will find you for perfectly matched opportunities. Ready? Let's do this. Principle number 3, amplify your credibility. Cleaning house removes all the friction of fear, anxiety, rules, shoulds, can'ts that don't work for us, and allows honesty and scrappiness and creativity to flow. Positioning gives you the clarity and power to make yourself understood in powerful ways. That combo is enough for a successful career, but when you're in a crowded job market, it's extra important to stand out. You see, right now, you think checking off the boxes of the right skills and the right buzzwords and having some good institution give you a stamp of approval is what makes you look qualified. But to be in demand, and when I say that, I want you to hear security and exciting and impactful, you need proof from the Envy League, not the Ivy League. The more outlets in the world that are curious and want to hear your message, the more companies want you and pay you. PhD not required. After all, companies are made up of people, and people make decisions based on the gut emotional level, way more than they'd like to admit. And research shows people respond first and foremost through gut reaction and then rationalize through logic and justifications. So when you're given an opportunity, it's because they trust you at a gut level, which means you aren't actually hired to complete 40 hours a week. You're not promoted because of your degrees or certificates. They're not even paying for your previous job title or the sexiness of the past companies you were at. Those are just proxies for trust. The Impact and Identity program teaches the entire blueprint for building trust, fast and slow. And amplifying your credibility means leaning into one pillar, social proof, aka the Envy League. The good news is that you're already trying to use social proof tactics. You're asking for referrals on LinkedIn. You're asking for recommendations, right? I hope so. Even your resume is a form of social proof. It is why so many ex-Googlers jam it right into the top of their LinkedIn profiles. It's a proxy that they are credible and trustworthy. It's not a guarantee. It's a proxy. Companies want to trust at a gut level that the opportunities they have are given to people they trust will give them results. Now, don't worry, my credibility code does not recommend you invest 3 years at a big name company just to prove you're worthy of what you actually want to do with your life. You don't even need to do a 6-month, $20,000 boot camp, although I know some of you watching this have already done that. In my second career change, I needed to figure out a way to get from academia into tech without spending 5 figures or a ton of time. I decided to adapt the playbook that launched me from owning a photography studio to becoming a scientist at NOAA and the National Center for Atmospheric Research without finishing my PhD. Building deep relationships with the right people to get the right referrals is really hard, but creating one thing to give over and over again is easy. Besides, generosity is way better than using people as objects for your own personal gain. Cold calling on LinkedIn. So you'll get to say goodbye to that cold calling. By the time I applied to academic jobs, I had already spoken at well over a dozen conferences and community meetings. In fact, my contract at NOAA was a direct result of just one presentation. The hiring manager refused to hire anyone but me for that gig. So even though my career change was very out of the ordinary, like photographer to scientist, one director called it bonkers, this method showed that I was dedicated and trustworthy. And that, my friends, is credibility. But leaving academia for the tech world meant a whole new language and a whole different group of people and communities. No one knew me, but I wasn't starting from scratch. With this strategy, I quickly landed an awesome UX researcher role in Colorado, even though there were very few dedicated researcher roles like this outside of Silicon Valley at the time. Once you learn this method, it will never stop working for you. And it doesn't matter what you set your sights on achieving. It still works. Now, I know you're thinking, but I have nothing to talk about at conferences or on social. Not to worry. In Impact and Identity, we start developing a project from day one, something that will make you shine like crazy when you do get booked on podcasts or at meetups. And I work with you personally to make sure your project is something that is just scary enough to stretch so you can practice all the mindset cleanup work we'll be learning. It'll give your confidence muscles the perfect workout, and it will be scoped so it is achievable in the time we have together. You won't be alone doing this. My team is with you the whole time to keep you on track to complete the project within You won't be doing this alone. My team is with you the whole time to keep you on track to complete the project and practice presenting within our 8 weeks together. Let me tell you one more quick story. Mia and I worked together before the Impact and Identity program was formally created. She was a quiet type that loved to make sure the details were buttoned up right. In fact, her boss at the time had recently told her that she was too in the weeds to be a good leader. Mia had been gunning for a manager role at that company for over a year. She was devastated, and I would be too. I taught her the ins and outs of this method, and she helped me make sure that it worked for introverted people like her. When Mia left that company, she was able to do it with a bang. She was the new director of analytics working with a CTO that understood her unique strengths and her leadership vision. So take that, grumpy ex-boss. Okay, let's recap. First, clean house. We all have inner critics that remind us we're walking around in poopy diapers. Doing the mindset work unravels the old rule book and double binds that keep you stuck or self-sabotaging. Because it's time to show up with some clean panties on. Next, position yourself. You won't get anyone to trust you if they don't understand you. And your odds of influence drop significantly if you don't trust you. They smell it a mile away. Positioning fixes both of these issues. Only after you've gotten clear on your positioning and you build your self-trust muscles will you reach true confidence, the kind that naturally exudes from you and speaks for itself. You'll be able to share your wins and even your missteps without being arrogant or risking a mini panic attack or setting off your own fake it alarms. And finally, amplify your credibility. Social proof is more powerful than watching yet another MOOC training video. I've systematized a method for you to go from regular employee to respected leader. Making a difference in the world is much easier when you actually have people's attention. With these elements in place, you'll be in demand without piling on any extra hours or effort than you've already put in right now. Being effective means you can actually work less. You know, what you label today as lazy is what actually is going to bring you success you're craving. The impact and identity process takes that sense of hiding that you have and dissolves it. That fear of judgment or rejection may not necessarily be front and center in your mind, but it is what keeps you hiding in busy work. When we work with our clients, the very first thing we do is work with you at a deep subconscious level to surface and release the stories and patterns that are holding you back and keeping you stuck. We're also going to condition the changes so that they stick. You'll learn techniques that create deep alignment between your subconscious and conscious minds. Everything becomes much easier when you don't have to show up wearing a mask. Now that energy is freed up, we get to work stripping down and clarifying your focus and your strategy. Then we prep you to share it with the world. So here's a more detailed program breakdown. Week 1, I will personally guide you through our proprietary visioning process so you have deep clarity so you can fully embody confidence and worthiness. We will scope a personalized learning project that will challenge you to the core. This project is where you will experiment using everything you'll learn. You are safe in our supportive group to practice and flex your confidence muscles and stretch your work-related skills. Week 2, we use the clarity you've just experienced to discover the rules and double binds that keep you in your unconscious mind so that we can unblock you from the yeah, but and what if waffling. In week 3, we'll teach you all about good drama and bad drama so you can leverage your influence in all directions without getting sucked into self-sabotage. We'll hold your hand through all the pieces because if you've never looked at your patterns like this, this is where all the boogeymen come out from under your bed. All that fear of rejection, fear of being seen, fear of abandonment and failure, which sometimes masquerades as fear of success. We're expecting the breakdown. So we support you through it and teach you a flow that you can use that will have your bosses begging to work with you without you ever feeling like you're selling yourself short. Week 4, this one's fun. We'll guide you on how to make sure your grimy inner critic keeps his hands off your future. With our structure, you won't be able to unsee what you discover. So it's infinitely more effective because you'll remember it subconsciously. No need for mantras on your bathroom mirror or tattoos on your wrist. In week 5, we're going to get into the mechanics of positioning versus personal branding. Our method allows you to gain trust immediately because you are being truly authentic, even when you're selling yourself or your ideas. My coaches and I will work with you one-on-one so you can show future employers who you are and the benefits they really get when they work with you. Week 6, this is where we get into amplification, so you can influence without formal power and with no need for lies, trickery, or manipulation. I'll share with you our strategy that will earn you credibility and trust before you ever say a word. This is the same strategy that worked for both me and Mia, though we were in different industries and at very different stages in our careers. And finally, week 7 and 8, this is where we get into bigger thinking, so you can turn your work into your purpose. Remember that project I mentioned? This is where your confidence comes to life, and you can share your gifts, and they'll bring you job security. If the pandemic taught us anything, it's that we each have one life to live, and we need to use it well. Having career security and influence frees up so much internal stress that you'll finally have the energy to do more than just survive or save for retirement. The work we do together is ultimately not about just you. It's about the purpose you're here to fulfill. So just to let you know, this isn't a DIY program. It's very much a done with you program. What makes us different is that we not only support you on both a subconscious level, but we combine it with proven strategy. This isn't just how-to tips. There's enough of that in the world already. Impact and identity is as much about who you need to be to have the career you crave as it is about what you need to do to get it. We have ongoing unlimited mindset, We have ongoing unlimited mindset and project coaching and support. This is your confidence playground and the first chapter of growing your career on purpose. We also have 3 hours of live group coaching calls every week. These are small groups of 20 or less. You get all your questions answered as you implement, and you'll learn from each other, because sometimes you just have to see your pattern playing out in someone else to get clear on what's keeping you stuck. My team and I will ask you questions that help us clarify your focus, where you're getting blocked or scared or distracted, so we can hold you accountable and get it done. You'll know you're doing it right. There's no guesswork. Please don't apply to our program if you're one of those people that purchases programs and then disappears. Because when we work with people, we will hunt you down if you're slipping or fading. Scroll down and watch some of the client videos below. My goal is to record one of those with you one day, which means you have to get results. If you do apply to the program, be ready for real change. The 3-minute application form is just a starting point to understand where you're stuck and what's actually causing that stuckness. If you make it through to the next round, we'll be on a call and we'll be listening, not just for what you're saying, but for what you're not saying and for what you haven't realized. That yeah, but that haunts you, that keeps you thinking you're an imposter or not ready, it clouds you from your light. Often the solution to the not good enough feeling is so simple and right under our nose that we just need someone to hand us a napkin and point to where it is. That yeah, but that haunts you, that keeps you thinking you're an imposter or not ready, it clouds you from your light. Often the solution to the not good enough feeling is so simple and right under your nose that we just need someone to hand us a napkin and point to where the mustard is. That breakthrough that you feel so close to, it is that close, most likely. That breakthrough that you feel so close to, it really is that close, but you're not looking at it right. And this is what our call is designed to help you do. On the call, we'll talk in great detail about your vision, because without one, you're going to run out of energy and will. We'll flesh it out. We're going to make it visceral. And then together we'll create a clear plan from where you are today to that vision of where you know you need to end up. If at that point we're able to support you more deeply and that's something that you want to explore, then we'll make you an offer to join. But honestly, we won't work with anyone we're not 100% sure we can help. We're really good at building a certain kind of career for certain people with a certain kind of readiness. So what we do isn't for everyone. If we discover that what you want is outside of our wheelhouse, we'll just refer you to someone who can help. Absolute worst case scenario, you'll have spent an hour talking to someone who's able to lead you to a depth of clarity you've never experienced before. So you will finally be free to drop the hustle and play from a place of deep authenticity. If that sounds like something you're ready for, fill out the form and pick a time that works for us to talk. Hi, puppy. So this is it, the moment of truth. Are you actually as ready as you say you are? I hope so, because there's nothing subtle about the change that's coming. It's time.
Hi, puppy.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.